Happy New Year and welcome to the IRONMAN Insider Podcast presented by Morton. I'm your host, Matt Lieto, and pretty excited to start the year, must say. And, as we start the year, we want to start on our best foot. And I thought no better guest to have on than the one and only Mirinda Carfrae. We're going to talk about 2025, maybe a little bit of 2026, and see what's been going on. What's been going on, Rinny?
It's been a whirlwind, actually, between kids home from school, holidays. Both of my boys had birthdays. Jameson turned 2 in December and Finn turned 5 on Sunday. So, yeah, it's been great. Lots of good stuff.
Is it sweet? Is it sweet to have the birthday right near Christmas, or is it like annoying for the kid, or like what's the deal?
I think it's annoying for probably the kid and the parent. Finn's birthday was just after Christmas, so the 4th of January. And I said to him, he's such a sweet little guy. I said to him after Christmas, I had a couple of gifts that I had already bought pre-Christmas. I'm like, okay, this is Finn's birthday. This is his Christmas. And I said to him, like, is there anything you didn't get at Christmas that you really wanted? And he said, no, like I got everything I wanted and then some extra.
That's awesome.
So I was like, wow, that's a pretty cool response from a almost 5-year-old to be like, no, I'm stoked. I'm so happy. So yeah,
that's
getting
great.
him a couple of presents was, it's always kind of tough to try to figure out. And then he gets nothing for like a year. So that's kind of a bummer. And then my daughter Isabel's birthday's in like August. So hers is kind of perfectly timed the end of summer. Everyone's home from like vacations. We usually have a party for it. It's over here. It's amazing. And Finn, we're like, do we have to do something? We've just fatigued from the holidays. So we are having a little party and he's inviting like 5 of his best friends over. And he's like all about Ghostbusters right now. So we're going to buy Ghostbusters costumes for all the kids. And I don't know, they're just going to go around busting ghosts or something. Sweet. I don't know, whatever 5-year-olds do. So
I like how that's come around. I feel like I was all about Ghostbusters when I was that age. So that's pretty sweet.
Totally. We actually watched the Ghostbusters 1 and 2, and I thought it'd be too scary for him because he's scared of like every movie we watch, but he loved it. So we're kind of hitting that sweet spot with the kids where we can watch the 80s movies that we used to like.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. That's awesome. And triathlons, it's just around the corner. It's not going to be too long till we have our first couple of races.
I know, it's crazy. I feel like we just got off Marbella, and obviously we had some races post Marbella, but it's time. The season's upon us again, and just looking at the schedule and sort of figuring out, what races can I commentate? What's my schedule for the year? That's always kind of the hard one, sort of figuring out what am I going to be doing in August? Can I be available to work this race? Yeah.
It's always the hard part for sure, but a lot of good racing. And I will say, we say this a lot before world championships or big races. It's always like, it's the biggest, most competitive race there ever was, like that's kind of how it ends up sometimes. And it's not always the case, but sometimes it's the case. But I will say, could you disagree that 2025, the world championship season was bananas? It was like all of the best races, like some of the closest best races that have ever happened in Ironman racing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Nice, obviously the first one. That race was insane. The 3-way, run battle with the Norwegians at the end of, an Ironman race. They're sprinting, and the run times they put down there were just insane. And then, of course, Kona goes one up on that, and just 2 of the favorites don't even make it to the finish line. Never happened in the history of the sport. Crazy. That both of the top women off the bike didn't make it to the finish line. So that was bonkers. And then like a rookie wins there, which was crazy. And then, Marbella, we get, that run battle with Lucy and Taylor, which we didn't get to see play out fully in Kona, which was, really cool to see. And then the insane run battle between Yella and Christian, which was sort of talked about all leading up into that race. So I think on all fronts, the World Championship events really delivered just amazing showcase of the talent in our sport.
No, it was crazy. And, some battles were maybe expected and then some certainly just weren't, right? And there was drama kind of from all ends. And because you brought it up first, maybe let's go deeper into or I think you did, the women's world championship in Kona. That was
Yeah.
crazy. And like you bring out a good point that that's never happened. And it's also the fact that those two favorites kind of dropped out pretty late, right? And obviously like in the lead, which has never happened before. And it is hard. I'm a little conflicted. Obviously, I want to chat about that because that was crazy.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I feel like sometimes we chat about that so much that we forget that the person who did it perfectly won the race,
Totally.
right? Like to some extent, Solveig Lopez has been like an after mention of the fact that everybody blew up, but like her race was so consistent and so like metered through all three disciplines that like, I mean, she was, more surprised than anybody else, and she ended up winning the race. But yeah, maybe talk about how amazing that performance was from someone that, I had a podcast with her a couple months before, and she was like, "Oh, maybe I'll get on the podium. I don't think I can win." I'm like, "Well, you can. Like, you can.
Yeah.
It just all has to happen, right?" But like, not in a million years did she think she'd win that race.
Yeah, I think patience showed patience beyond her years. And in that race, you see some people come in that are overwhelming favorites. They've never done it before, and then they just can't get it right. I
Yeah,
think she came in, she was really calculated in her approach. She didn't race outside of herself. She did what she knew she could do. And I mean, at the end of the day, it could have finished with a third place, but it ended up finishing with a win because that race is so unpredictable. And certainly on that marathon, it's not over till it's over. And so, yeah, I mean, I think she was a masterclass in how
yeah,
to execute in Kona. And I think she is only going to get better from that point. You learn as you race in Kona. And of course, this is her first Ironman season of racing, starting in Hamburg, going to Placid, and then coming to Kona. She's still learning how to race the distance. So she's definitely going to just get better and better every year. But again, to snatch that win on debut was extremely impressive. Not pretty impressive, just unbelievable.
oh, yeah. And it was cool seeing the podium flip from her inaugural Ironman this year, where Laura Phillip won, Kat Matthews was second, and she was third. Kind of exact opposite on that one. And like you can't, sometimes when somebody wins with unexpectedly, you're like, oh well, the other people weren't there. And it's like, no, first and second from world championships last year were right there, and she beat him. And Kat Matthews, man, that's like the only heartbreak in the end for that is, oh man, like what was it, 30 seconds, less than 30 seconds.
Yeah, that finish was one of the closest in history. I don't know if it was the closest. I don't want to speak out of, without the
Yeah,
facts there, but just closing so well and running like a new run course record. She
right.
was, yeah, just there. And I think she finished the race and was like, oh, like I think, yeah, she kind of looked back and like, I didn't bike as well as I maybe could have. I didn't swim maybe as well as I
Right.
could have. I ran great, and it was enough to get me almost there. And so, yeah, heartbreak for Kat Matthews. But again, you can't take away anything from Solvi. She went out there and she didn't even try to pull away from the group, which is dangerous. Like she
Yeah.
went to the front and took a turn, and she basically just left everyone in her dust. And those girls know who she is, right? Like Kat raced her, Laura raced her in Hamburg. They knew she was going to be a factor in this race. So it wasn't like they let her go. She rode away from
No.
them without trying, and then proceeded to just, solo the rest of the bike. And yes, she got off the bike with a deficit, which with what looked like first and second place, pretty much sewn up, but it's
Yeah.
Kona.
It is, and it gets real pretty quick out there
Hmm.
on the Queen K, right? And
Yeah.
so, were there any other surprises for you? I know I had a couple in the top 10 as far as the women's race goes that like maybe we wouldn't have expected to be where they were.
Oh gosh, I have to look back at the top 10. I feel like, I have amnesia anytime. The
Yeah.
the race is past. Even the next day I'm like, wait, who came fifth? Who came
No,
sixth?
totally. Well, I'll give you mine
Yeah.
if you want. For me, I mean, there were a few, and I shouldn't. It's hard to say it's a surprise because like I know the capability of this athlete, and it's not surprising in any way. But Hannah Berry getting fourth to
Mm.
me was rad, right? Like she's just so consistent, and I think last year I'd have to look, but I think she was like 9th or 10th. And like generally she's going to run a 3:05 marathon. She's going to swim well. She's going to ride well, but a 3:05 at World Championship or at another race, like there's often somebody that can run, you know, as we saw Kat, a 2:47. Like that's just a lot of time. But to run a 3:05, which is kind of her, seems like 3:03 or 3:05 is kind of her standard marathon, to do that in Kona at the World Championship is something else. And to see her, I couldn't have been more stoked to see her get 4th place. It was awesome.
Totally. And she was someone that really wasn't talked about. A lot of athletes were talked about leading into that race. Like there were so many favorites. There were so many dark horses. There were so many what ifs. And then, you know, Hannah comes in and is just ever consistent. And we've seen her race really well in it. You know, she's raced in the US and raced well, but she's not really raced extremely well at top tier Ironman events. I mean, Cairns, I guess that's one. But Europe and the US, we haven't really seen her be top tier. And so to come in at the World Champs and deliver, I think that just shows that, you know, just her consistency and how just strong she is.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, she's one of the nicer athletes out there. You know, she's just great. She's great to be around. So
she's awesome.
But yeah, no, women's race in Kona was nuts. As you said, the men's race in Nice was also pretty bananas, right? Like as you said, I'm not going to pull out any stats because, you know, I'm not a stats guy. I'm sure there's people yelling at the screen right now, but never seen that big of a group start a marathon together. And like, certainly the amount of athletes that were still there halfway through was nuts. And then clearly, you know, looking at the results, the Norwegians just dominating. And, you know, we had 3 Norwegians in the men's race, obviously Solveig Lovseth in the women's race. But I want to say up until, I think Casper Storn has told me this actually, it was 5 or 6 years ago, before we saw Christian and Gustav at the World Championships, no professional Norwegian had like raced at a World Championship. And now if you like look at how many World Championships they have in the last 5 years, let alone like podium, it's crazy.
The emergence of the Norwegians and spearheaded by Christian Blumenfeld and Gustav, for sure. But I mean, the stranglehold they have on those top slots, and if they're on the start line at any race, you're like, okay, well, a Norwegian, you know, is going to be on one of these top steps. But to take 3 of the top steps in Nice, I think the race started off bonkers. In the swim, we had Laidlow almost pull out.
Yeah, so I'm swimming the other direction.
Yeah, he's done. He did end up finishing, of course, but that was just like, you know, it's always shocking to see one of the favorites in the swim have trouble. And so that was, you know, started off kind of strange, and then, you know, get on the bike and the pack just stick together, and keep sticking together on a course like that where so many skills come into play. Like you have to be able to climb well, you have to be able to descend well, so that, you know, power to weight ratio has to be a certain way, and then technical ability on a time trial bike, you know, has to be, you know, sound. So yeah, just set up for a phenomenal marathon. And then the 3 Norwegian boys just showing that they're superior on that run right now.
Yeah, that was crazy. And back to the bike. And again, I noticed the same thing on the swim, but back to the bike, to me, what's crazy about, as you said, the group mostly staying together out there on the course. Sometimes there'd be some fluctuations, like Magnus Ditlev kept getting kind of popped off the back and back on, but he obviously wasn't kind of himself that day. But I would love to see the power files, because I think people underestimate still somehow triathletes on the bike in an Ironman, as far as like how they compare to maybe professional cyclists. And clearly, you know, they're not as good as like a Tour de France race or whatever, but this course it's so dynamic. Like their normalized power had to be crazy, because to your point, it's like, technical descents, but then these huge climbs where those riders were riding, I'm sure, threshold or above, which, you know, for a lot of these athletes over 400 watts, like that's crazy to be able to do that. And then looking at the run, like Sam Laidlow, I thought was one of the best performances because he just did not give up, but he's in 5th place with the slowest run in the top 5 at a 2:42. off of that bike. That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, the running, the technology and running shoe and nutrition and so forth, but just like athletes just keep getting better and better.
Yeah,
And yes, to your point, to be able to, on a course like that, they're spiking their watts a lot. And so generally, when you're having those huge spikes in power, it's generally more fatiguing by the time you get to the run. So to be able
sure.
to do that and then still have the legs on the run, to be able to run those kind of times. And yes, the weather helped. When we think about world champs historically, we think about Kona, and the heat
Right.
just plays a massive part in it. And at least that wasn't so much the case. They didn't have to deal with that as well. Needless to say, that bike course can, bring you to your knees. And if you overdo it, or if you don't have the fitness, or if you haven't done the work, that you will be exposed. And so it just shows how supremely fit and ready to go they all were. And that's what World Championships calls for.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. And as far as I won't put you too on the spot, as far as like surprises though, if anything comes to your mind in the top 10 there, for me, it was probably, I think again, same as kind of Hannah Berry, not surprised, but Nick Thompson finishing in at seventh place, like his year this year, I thought was super impressive. I mean, his bike split was maybe the second fastest bike split of the day, just behind Laidlow, who had some work to do to make up on it, and ran a 2:48 at a world championship. Like that dude, that's a big step for Nick Thompson.
Yeah, I feel like Nick Thompson has arrived, right? Like this year.
Yeah,
He, has had some great results in the past and been an athlete that, has been talked about a little bit, but his season this year was definitely just bonkers. And yeah, to see him perform at that level at the World Championships, um, you know, is incredible to see. And I hope he just continues to improve and gets confidence from that result and continue to push forward.
yeah, no, and I think he will. We didn't see him really back that up in Western Australia, but that's a very very different course, and I think he's one of those athletes that the tougher the course is going to be, the more he's gonna rise to the top.
Yeah, not to mention, I mean, yes, he's Australian and lives, trains down there, but coming off a world championship event
Yeah,
like in September to then recover, mentally get up again in December, it's just tough.
yeah,
It's hard to figure out, the peaks in the year. And December's probably it was probably just too soon for him to just get back up for a great performance.
yeah. No, I think that's fair. And then obviously, World Championship 70.3 in Marbella was also a super challenging course, which the bike times for as tough of a course it was, to me, was crazy. Lucy Charles Barclay having the second fastest bike split of the day, but being right up there, and then running a 117 off. Like, to me, it was reminiscent. It wasn't as dominating as that St. George win, but it was reminiscent of like, oh no, she's the best. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, and her season sort of just played out that way, right? Like she was racing the T100, she was racing the short course races and dominating and running really well. And then there were a lot of rumblings of she's just run her best 5K time. Like her
Right,
speed
right.
was there, and it looked like Kona was also going to be a big performance for her. But I think pulling her off the course halfway through the marathon was the right call to get
Oh
that
yeah.
70.3 world title. But yeah, I mean, flawless performance from Lucy. And when you're a competitor of Lucy's and she's the best swimmer in the sport, she's one of the best bikers in the sport, and then she's running a 117, like, it's very hard to beat that triple threat. So yeah, I mean, Lucy, I think her only downfall is that she's prone to injury. And so if they can keep her healthy,
Right.
next year is going to be another Lucy year.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and that's the thing, and I think she's figured out a lot of stuff as far as injury goes. Like her being celiac was a huge part of that,
Mhm.
right? Like if your gut's not working, you're not recovering. Is the fact that she was at the level she was at with
Mhm.
that and not knowing it
Mhm.
was kind of remarkable, and we're going to see a lot more resiliency out of Lucy for sure. And it's as you said, she is that dominant of those three things. But Taylor Knibb, she's won a bunch of world championships and was right there. So if you've got 3 minutes on Taylor, obviously Taylor, that Kona had to hurt the body.
Mhm.
when you go to that level, like your tank isn't filling up anytime soon.
Yeah, I mean Taylor's just a freakish talent
Yeah.
in the sport, and yeah, I mean to get to what 2.5 miles to go in Kona to push that hard for that long, and I think I mean she certainly didn't have the best preparation for 70.3 Worlds, and we're used to seeing Taylor dominate on the bike, and this course sort of set up for a very good opportunity for her to do that, but I just think she didn't have the legs after Kona to be able to, put a couple of minutes into Lucy to have, again, like Taylor can run very well. No doubt that she could run a 117 on her day as well. But with Kona in your body and in your legs, and going, 6 or 7 miles further than what Lucy did, I think, that definitely takes a toll. And, Lucy, I think, was pulled off the course before she really caused any damage, whereas Taylor was just out there until she couldn't be out there anymore. It was like her body stopped her from going any further.
Yeah, no, that's brutal. And you're not coming back from that anytime soon. To me, very impressive especially on that hard of a course that she actually had the performance that she did in Marbella. And then on the men's side, to me, just the fact that we haven't had, I probably should have looked more at these stats before, to your point, but we haven't really had I don't remember the last time we had a back-to-back winner at the 70.3 World Championships on the men's side. Oh, who's that?
Sorry, we have a little guest. He's just about to go for a nap, and he's like, I need a mummy hug. Yeah, I can't remember the last back-to-back world champion. Gustav didn't go back-to-back? No,
I don't believe so.
Yeah. So you've got to go back to who was the last back-to-back champ then?
I don't even know. Crowe, maybe? I have no idea.
I don't know if he went back-to-back.
We'll edit it in anyway. Afterwards. But yeah, that's but anyways, his performance, especially with Christian, was on a mission. Like, he was ticked off that he did not win in Nice. And yeah, exactly. Very passionate about Christian's results. So like that was the race for him. Like, he needed to win that race to kind of justify his season, to me, to a certain extent. Obviously the Pro Series was what he was searching for as well, but to go against Blumenfeld, who was playing a tactical race, like just sitting on the shoulder, did not, like, that's kind of brutal, did not take a turn, and you beat him, you run him off your heels. Like, that's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, again, like, Christian is tough as nails. And I think you're 100% correct when you say that he was pretty ticked off with how his season, I mean, again, he had a phenomenal season. He was a Pro Series champion, was a factor in every single race. If he didn't win, he was certainly a big factor in an athlete that caused the outcome of the race or had something to do with the outcome of the race. Like, he impacted every single race. He put his toe on the start line. And to have that guy breathing down your neck for the whole half marathon. But I mean, you can't take anything away from Jelle, like, defending champion, backing it up. And he crashed at the beginning of the bike.
Right.
Totally. Like, starting that bike with a crash, and then getting back on, and like getting back in there and fighting his way back into the contention, and then getting off the bike with the top guys. It just set up for a phenomenal day of racing. And yeah, I mean, Jelle not doing Ironman races maybe helped him to have that extra gear. I certainly think that when you have Ironman racing in your calendar, it's a little bit harder just to shift into that hyper. So I think that was maybe the difference. Crazy. And I mean, it's still, Blumenfeld running under 108, 107 high. It's still crazy to do that with an Ironman in your legs. And to me, and obviously Jelle was respected before both of these races and was one of the favorites. But if you look at put Hayden Wild in the second place and Christian Blumenfeld in second place, like, there's no question now. There shouldn't be. Like, again, we get into next year and people are going to pick
three people that are not Yele to win the world championship, right? For whatever reason, that seems to be the case. But like when you beat those two athletes head to head at that race, like there should be no question that you're clearly the best in the sport at that distance on the day.
Yep. Yeah, and I think it speaks to his ability to rise to the occasion, right? Like to beat Hayden Wild in New Zealand, and I think Hayden just went out way too hot and blew. But again, he still beat him and still beat him handily. And then to go head to head with Christian Blumenfeld, arguably the best triathlete right now of his era. Yeah, I mean, there should be no doubt, but you're 100% correct. Next year at World Champs, we'll be sitting here and saying, yeah, I guess, but what about Christian? What about Hayden if Hayden decides to race? You know, like there will be, it won't be a foregone conclusion. And, you know, I mean, the racing is so tight that I don't think it ever will be. But for now, we can say his ability to rise to the occasion at the World Championships or the race that matters most is, again, he did it. Two-time world champ.
Totally. And I will say, to his credit, the reason and I'm not taking the blame off of us for that fact we're going to do this again, is that to me, it tells that he is a quiet, humble performer, right? Like if he was yelling at us the 3 months leading in that he's going to win those races, then we probably would have more attention and we put it on him. But he's just kind of like quietly that just does the job. It's awesome.
Yeah. No, it's great. I love it.
Yeah. Okay. So 2025, I want to see, and I'm putting you on the spot here a little bit, and I can answer first if you want, but if you had any big surprises of 2025, as far as like either races that went a different way or athletes that were a bit of a surprise, I will start. For me, and again, I might get a little bit of crap for this one, but it's surprise and maybe more just excited. Gustav is back, right? And even like if you looked at his first couple races of the year, you'd be like, okay, he's like there. But by the end of the season, like obviously second place at World Championship in Nice. And for me, the pre-race interviews was awesome because it was the first time I'd seen him be like, no, I'm winning in 3 days or whatever. Right. Yeah. And, his confidence and obviously his performance on the day was rad. And a little side story, I had this hat that had a motorcycle brand on it that he rides. And during the interview, he was like telling me how much he loved that hat. And I saw him at the hotel the day before the race, and I'm like, this hat's yours if you win tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And he got second, and I went up to him the day after. I was like, dude, that was awesome. I can't believe you did that. And I went to give him my hat, and he's like, bring it to Kona next year, man. Like, like, that is not how I roll, right? And he has that confidence. Like, he's already thinking about the fact that he's going to win Kona next year. So for me, that shouldn't be necessarily that as much of a surprise, but we've seen that. Like, sport is brutal. You'll see someone at the very top. We thought Gustav was going to win 5 world championships. And then he had a bunch of stuff happen where we're like, oh, he might not ever be at the top again. And he proved us wrong. And I couldn't be happier. Yeah.
I mean, I think, yes, you have seen athletes sort of win and then just peter out. But I feel like once a champion, always a champion. You know how to rise to the occasion. My surprise for the year was Casper winning. Nice. I think, yes, Casper has, a long and storied career in short course racing and a phenomenal athlete, training alongside the best in the world. Shouldn't be a super surprise. But I feel like Gustav and Christian were the elder statesmen in this distance. And for him to just come in and take the win and run as well as he did, I mean, that performance was out of this world.
229.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was the biggest surprise for me for this past year. Gustav coming back, yes, for sure. Nice to see him back, and certainly for a moment didn't know if he would be back.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And to your point, because I didn't bring this up before, as far as the Norwegians, they've all won their first world championship over the Ironman distance. We've never seen any Norwegian win a second world championship over that distance, right? So like we'll see who the first of the three are, and if Solveig gets there. And I'd say she was maybe one of the surprises for me because, if you brought her name up 2 years ago, obviously she raced, remember one of her results, 70.3, what was it? Palm
Yeah.
Springs. Which one's that?
Yeah, it was phenomenal. I can't
Yeah.
remember.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, she's been there before, but I never would have thought she would have had the performances that she had. So I think kind of, to me, that was a surprise as well. And then, okay, single best performance of 2025. I'm going to go ahead and say, just because it was off the result that she had in Kona, I would say Lucy at Marbella. Like that was just like winning a world championship is not a small feat, especially with the class of the fields that we have. Kat Matthews didn't have the day that she had out there, but like she's always right there. She can run a 117 or under, and Lucy put Kona behind her. And as you said, I hadn't thought about it, but the fact that they decided to pull her out of that race was probably a lot of the reason she was able to have that. And for me, that was a lights out performance.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I think you look through the year and there were performances like Laura Phillips' performance in Hamburg, out of this world.
Right,
But
absolutely.
I don't think you can give a performance of the year award to a race outside of a world champs because they're all really trying to lead up to those big races. I mean, and
Fair.
there's standout performances throughout the year, but again, what matters most is the world champs. So I think you have to give standout performance or performance of the year to a world championship. And yeah, I mean, my surprise was Casper, so I can't give him performance of the year. So I'd say Lucy.
There you go.
Well.
And there might be some redundancies here,
Yeah.
but up and comers of the season for me, up and comers hard, but maybe breakthrough or like moving up, leveling up. For me, men and women's side, it was Lisa Perder. I mean, she did it with a smile on her face. She didn't have any huge wins per se, but like she was always there against the most competitive athletes in the sport. She ended up, I believe, 5th place in Kona at the World Championship. She was second behind Solveig at Lake Placid with a penalty, and she's smiling 3 minutes after she got on the bike after getting her penalty. Like she's just, she emits joy of racing, and to see her get to that next level over the distances, to me was that was the breakthrough athlete of the year.
Yeah, mine's Solvi actually.
Yep.
Coming into, yes, we've sort of heard whispers of Solvi, phenomenal bike strength, and a great runner in the 70.3. But to make the transition to Ironman racing, to go toe to toe with two of the best in the sport who were, defending world champ runner up in Nice, in Hamburg, and be right there. And then that debut marathon off the bike in Hamburg, amazing. Go back that up in Placid, have a phenomenal performance there, and then win the world championship. I mean, that season from Solvi was just insane for a first year racing Ironman.
Yeah, and she also did it with a smile on her face, like she was enjoying it, right? Which is rad to see. We'll say I'm going to bring up one more. For me, it was Jonas Schoenberg was a surprise for sure. Like Ironman South Africa, he was doing it for fun. He was just down there, and he's like, "I'll give it a shot," and then he just like kept rolling. Fifth at Yosolo. He was. Where did he end up? At World Championships in Nice was 6th place. World Championships at 70.3 was 4th place. So to me, he was just a name that we hadn't seen in Ironman and 70.3 racing. Obviously successful over short course racing, but for me, just watching him race like from the front, like he was aggressive. Like we knew he would be an impact at the World Championships, and he certainly was.
Yeah, I totally agree. His racing this year. And again, he's somebody that was kind of not, I mean, people know his bike strength, but it was really a standout year for him. And certainly will be one to watch in the future as well.
Yeah. And so go from like newbies, ones to watch, we know he's going to have a great career, to I don't know if we've ever had a like retiring class of a year like we've had this year. It's crazy. Like I'll just name kind of a few that to me are the biggest. Annie Haug, Braden Curry, Haley Chura, Chris Leiferman. We had him top at World Championships a few times. Meredith Kessler, our good friend Didi Griesbauer was one as well. Josh Amberger, always one that would kind of he'd put his stamp on the race, whether it was personality or, first out of the water a few times at World Championships. And Melanie McQuaid, like, to me, it's a crazy, crazy year.
Yeah, crazy year of retirements. Els Visser, another one,
Oh,
who
yeah, totally.
raced a lot, and was always sort of an athlete that we would talk about leading into any race that could be a factor. So, yeah, it's crazy. Everyone, well, not everyone, but a lot of retirement announcements this year. Annie Haug, yeah, I think she wanted that one more big performance, but again, just such a phenomenal career, and yeah, I mean, it's always sad to see them retire, but no doubt they'll go on to some more great things in their lives.
Totally. And I was impressed when they, know it's time. Like Braden Curry was still up there. He had some bad luck, I would say, the last couple of years more than anything. But he's like, you know what? My kids are at an age where I get to hang out with them and have a good time. So let's bag it and move on to something else. But yeah,
He's in Japan skiing right now. He's like, haven't been able to do this before with the swim bike run calendar, but
I know I'm gonna have to unfollow Braden, honestly, because he lives my dream life. So we'll see. But so we can't talk about 2025 without talking about our second year at the IRONMAN Pro Series. And it definitely leveled up. Certainly no disrespect to the athletes that were on the podium last year. Those were amazing performances to get there. Some that were on the podium this year as well. But the best in the sport showed up at a bunch of races, and it ended up being pretty darn tight. Like, on the men's side, it was 800 points that separated Blumenfeld from Casper. And with Hogenhog not too far behind, he only got third place over Nick Thompson by like less than 100 points. So
yeah.
super, super tight racing on the men's side. And then the women's side, Kat we knew she probably was going to get it, but less than 500 points from Solveig. And then Lisa Perder not too far behind either.
Yeah, it's crazy to look at that now because you kind of, felt that Kat was a sort of a foregone conclusion with her results. And then you see Solveig right in there and only 500 points back. Yeah, that's pretty surprising to see. But yeah, Solveig will be a factor moving forward for Kat.
Totally, especially with Solveig, like, she won a world championship, and you would think, okay, that's probably why it was close, but she only got 30 points on Kat, right?
Yeah, because Kat was so close.
Yeah, totally. So, yeah, crazy. I mean, Kat's definitely, we know that she's going to be looking at that calendar this year. And I mean, she basically now knows what she wanted to do this year is what she's going to have to do next year to win, which is get a perfect score.
Yeah, totally. And I think she's looking really long and hard at the schedule. And she sort of, she said this year, her overwhelming goal was to win a world title. And, Pro Series was second, but of course, an important second.
Yeah.
She wasn't able to get that done. I think she'll set her year up even. So I feel like last year when she won the Ironman Pro Series, she was all over the place. She was racing.
Yes.
So much. And it was like amazing that she was getting the results she was getting because she was just doing so much and traveling so much. And I feel like this year she really honed it in and said, I'm doing these races. I'm not deviating from the plan. I want to peak at all of these races and get the, close to a perfect score as possible. And she was, really on track, 30 seconds ish behind Solveig and Kona. And then, unfortunately had the calf thing in 70.3 Worlds, but she was right in the mix, in the hunt at that race. And, by all accounts, would have most likely been on the podium at that race too. So close to a perfect score. But again, to your point, it might take a perfect score next year with Solveig on the rise and Kat racing as well as she's racing.
Yeah, I mean, she had 20,845 points. So kind of like 155 points technically from what you could consider a perfect score, but you'd have to probably consider world championships at 70.3, right? So technically she was like 600 points off of a perfect score, but
exactly. The extra 500.
Yeah, insane consistency from those athletes. And again, that Lisa Perder being right there, Jackie Herring proving that she's still belongs when you talk about consistency. And again, to me, Jackie is crazy because she took like 8 years off of Ironman till last year.
I love following Jackie's story. She, has been around. I feel like Jackie's been racing for as long as
forever.
I can remember. I
Yep.
raced her so much over the years, and yeah, she took that time off, had her two children, and came back. And like to have the motivation and the willingness to keep pushing and hurting and doing those hard sessions. And she lives in Wisconsin. Those winters are long and hard and tough, so there's a lot of wind trainer time. It pays off for her. And she's still doing well, so she can't retire anytime soon. But I feel like I was sitting with her and chatting with her in Finland. And this is before she came back to Ironman, and she was kind of at a loss. She didn't have a great race at 70.3 Worlds in Finland, and she was kind of like, oh, I don't know
Right.
what I want to do. Should I just go and do an Ironman at the end of the season? I'm like, just have a break, and then yeah, do Ironman next year. But yeah, just great to see her. It's almost like a rebirth of Jackie Herring, and to be racing against the current crop of athletes and the current talent, and just doing so well is awesome. I love watching that story unfold.
Oh yeah, and she's always going to show up, and she's got like a little bit of like is confidence, but she's got a little bit of like swagger and attitude sometimes about like if you doubt her for a second, she'll like tell you and be
She'll be
like,
like,
"Do
thank you very
never
much. I
doubt
will
me."
use that for fuel. I needed
It's awesome. Absolutely love it. Okay, well that's 2025. I think we did a reasonable job of kind of recapping what happened there. But 2026, the Ironman Pro Series is definitely not going to disappoint in any way. I mean, that
yeah.
if you look at the calendar, it's a bunch of kind of the iconic races. Obviously, we got Oceanside, Texas, Provence, Hamburg, some new ones, Pennsylvania. That's going to be sweet.
Yeah.
Frankfurt, Swansea, Placid, like a bunch of crazy races. Boise is going to be back on there. So it's a bunch of epic races coming in next year. And I'm curious if there's one that's a favorite for you, one you're most excited to see, like this quality of a field.
I'm excited for New Zealand. The addition of Ironman New Zealand at March 7th. I think that's the big one. I think a lot of athletes, of the top tier athletes, are looking to get that first score early in the year.
Yep.
And so I think that's going to be a very competitive race. And, Ironman New Zealand's an historic Ironman. It's one of the, when there was only, 6 Ironman races, Ironman New Zealand was one of the big ones. And so I'm excited for that one. The series will kick off with fireworks there, I have no doubt. The
Yeah.
course, the venue, and the competition, I think, are going to be second to none. So yeah, to start off there in New Zealand, and then, Oceanside's always, a great sort of almost the season opener for North America. And so that one's always, a phenomenal race. Texas is
Yeah.
always incredible, but I'm wondering if some athletes might hit New Zealand, maybe skip Texas, and then hit Hamburg or a mid-season
Right.
Ironman race, and then, the world champs at the end of the year. So I think the Ironman choice will be probably either New Zealand or Texas instead of,
Right.
everyone was sort of going to Texas. Now the calendar's
Right.
shifted forward a month for a lot of these athletes.
For especially for the athletes that want to be on that podium of the
Hmm. Oh,
Pro
yeah.
Series, right? Because we don't have South Africa this year, right, in the
Yeah.
Pro Series, so that's a big change. And I think you make a great point with those two races probably being the first ones. And you kind of took it from me because New Zealand is going to be crazy,
Yeah.
and it's such an iconic race. I want to say it's one of the first 3 or 4 Ironman races that ever existed, and some insane races. Cam Brown obviously was a legend down there, but to see the caliber that's going to show up to that race, and I think we're going to get a lot of athletes that we see training down there or training in
Mhm.
Australia and being ready for it. I had a buddy of mine who's kind of an up and comer triathlete say, I think I'm going to go to New Zealand this year. I was like, dude, I don't think it's the year to go to New Zealand, man. Like you're going to get destroyed.
Maybe
But
skip that one.
totally. But the other one too that excites me is maybe a little bit bias is Boise. It's just a 5-hour drive from me here. Raced it a bunch of times back in the day, and it's small town, hometown
Yeah.
feel race. You finish at the state capitol. It's a hard course, and the run course will, there'll be some fireworks going on that little river trail there. It's gonna be epic.
Yeah, Boise's a great little location for a 70.3. I had never got to do that race. I know my husband Tim
Yeah.
did race it, and he crashed in the first. mile on the bike, typical
Oh
Tim
no.
style. He said that there was a like a witch's hat or cone, like a cone
Yeah.
that was like
Yeah.
5 foot tall, and the water was so cold that year. That's the year Matty Reid won and rode in his wetsuit.
In the wetsuit. Yeah.
They shortened the
Totally.
bike that year. Matt Reid rode the whole bike in his wetsuit. Tim did not ride in the wetsuit, but he like was so frozen he couldn't turn, ran straight into a 5 foot cone. He finished third the day, but yeah.
Dude, and of course, when Tim's telling the story, it's not like a normal cone. It's a 5 foot tall cone.
Well, that's like he's saying it like I'm such an idiot. It wasn't like a little cone that he hit. It was
Oh,
like
gotcha.
5 foot
Yeah,
tall,
yeah.
and he totally ran straight into it.
Oh, that's so
Like,
awesome.
yeah, that's total TO style.
I love it. I love it. Well, thanks for coming on and chatting about this. You know, getting ready for this podcast, I got excited for the season, but now talking to you about it, I'm like, oh man, I can't wait.
Yeah.
This is going to be epic. And again, starting out with New Zealand is just going to be crazy.
Yeah, it's going to be an amazing way to start off the series, and yeah, I can't wait to see what who shows up. And again, it's tough to get ready for an early season Ironman, like especially with the short turnaround from Marbella. So
Yeah.
hopefully athletes have managed their downtime, had the downtime. But yeah, sometimes that first race of the year can be a little hit or miss. So we'll see what
Totally.
happens.
Yeah, and one thing I want to mention, I almost let you off the hook there, is what I forgot to mention was what's great about the Pro Series this year is it took a couple years to even out the schedule and to get there, but we finish with the men and women racing together in Kona, and that's where the points, like
Really matter.
the points tally, that's it. We're gonna crown the world championship, world champions, and the Pro Series champion on the same day. It's gonna be like I think it's the excitement level for the Pro Series is going to be palpable going into that race.
Yeah, I think it's we'll just bringing the women back together in Kona, men and women back
Yeah,
together in Kona. I think that's going to be phenomenal. That or in all on all fronts, that event this year in Kona is going to be a race for the ages and one not to miss. So
yeah, that's awesome. Sweet. Thanks so much for your time, Rinny. Appreciate it, and look forward to seeing you at the races soon.
sounds good. Thanks, Matt.
Well, great stuff with Rinny. There's nobody that knows the ins and outs of pro Ironman racing as much as Mirinda Carfrae, multiple champion herself. And yeah, great to get some insight and look back a little bit. And, you got to look back before you can look forward. And I'm excited, very, very excited for this year's racing in the 2026 Ironman Pro Series. To stay across all the news once the racing gets up in the Ironman and Ironman Pro Series, follow at Ironman Try on Instagram and check out proseries.ironman.com for standings, athlete bios, episodes of A Fighting Chance, and replays of all the races. And of course, I want to thank again our presenting sponsor, Morton, the official sports performance nutrition partner of the Ironman Global Series. And all Ironman athletes have access to Morton hydrogels and solids out on course. And thanks to them, we could not do this podcast without them. And if you like this conversation, please like, share, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you're on the trainer, you can also watch on the Ironman Triathlon YouTube channel. Thanks so much for joining us and listening in to the Ironman Insider Podcast presented by Morton. So value being able to chat with all the best athletes in the sport and personalities in the sport and share those conversations with you. And please keep an eye on this space for many, many more great conversations as 2026 enters the racing season. Again, I'm your host, Matt Lieto, and thanks so much for listening in.